Welcome back. If you were with us last time, we talked about some of the things that can commonly undermine or damage an organization's culture or even a team culture. So, today in this video, I want to specifically focus on the mistakes or the missteps that leaders can make when they are taking that step to address company culture. So, you've noticed that it's not going the direction that you want, you've noticed that you want an improvement. Really, what are the biggest mistakes that we see leaders make when they get to this point? And the first one that I see is that they don't take the time to get specific about where they are today. There's this general sense that we don't like our company culture, that it could be better, that it needs some improvement. But before we really understand where we are, leaders are very tempted to go to fixing the problem. And that's a natural thing. Most leaders are wired to be problem solvers. They're wired to move quickly. They're wired to make fast decisions and get to the bottom line. But here, I think really slowing down and getting specific about where you are today helps you create the most powerful foundation for transforming your culture moving forward. You can do a lot of things here to understand where your culture is. Stakeholder interviews, asking employees, reviewing things like exit interviews, engagement surveys, all of those things are going to help you understand not just where you think the culture is as a leader, but also where the rest of the organization thinks the culture is. So that's mistake number one, is really not slowing down to understand where you are today before you start to remedy that. Mistake number two is similar, and that's being overly aspirational about your values. And this one happens all the time. It's part of human nature to sit down and say, this is who I want to be. And we do the same thing with organizations. I want to be this kind of person. I want to be a people first organization. I want us to be an organization that allows for mistakes and innovation. But in practice, often that's not who we really are. And you'll hear this if you've come up through the ranks of an organization, if you've paid any attention to what your employees say, you know that there are places where organizations say one thing and they do another. And this can be really, really damaging to the long-term viability of whatever culture it is that you're trying to create. So rather than being aspirational, take the time to understand who you really are. And then be deeply honest with yourself as an individual leader, as an executive team, about who do we really want to be? Are we a people first culture, or does profit matter to us just as much? And spend the time really grappling with the hard balance of the two. So don't be overly aspirational. That's mistake number two. Then mistake number three is really confusing perks or practices with culture. And this, I think, comes from a lack of patience, a sort of a challenge with doing the hard, slow work that is culture building. And we have all likely experienced this. I can get a little on my soapbox about it, but birthday cakes and balloons in the break room once a month is not culture. Taking people out to lunch when they onboard with you, that's not culture. Is it a part of who you are as an organization? Sure, it's a part of who you are. But those sorts of perks, those sorts of one-off practices are not enough to sustain a culture in the face of all of the other things that you do. So if you remember that culture is shared beliefs, shared values, shared practices, if everything about your culture is pulling one direction, it's just not possible for you to undo that with one or two perks or practices that pull in the other direction. So as a leader, try your best to avoid that pull of the quick band-aid solution that is, oh, we can have a party, or oh, let's give everybody an extra day off. Those are nice, right? Those are lovely things to do for your employees, but at the end of the day, they're not going to be significant enough to move the needle for you when it comes to culture. So a couple of mistakes that we see leaders make, we see organizations make when they're trying to build their culture. So come back next time. We're going to bring this series to a close by talking about the steps you really need to take if you're serious about culture improvement or culture change.